Hey peeps, welcome back to my channel and to the next episode of my dark mode series. In this episode, we are going to learn how to let every view in our whole app actually know that dark mode has changed. And so you can see already that we have a digidestined list that knows about dark mode, and we are going to switch it off, and it somehow noticed that we're switching it off as well. And with that approach that I'm going to show you, you are able to actually turn your whole app into dark mode or not, depending on just alone the toggle in the settings. Let's dive right into it. And we're going to do that by swiping just to the left. The last time we have left off by having the toggle already working for settings, right? But not when we switch the view for the other views. The general or overall tab bar controller, yes, it would stay dark, but the alone or single view controller for Digidestined and its own navigation controller, they wouldn't know about that something has changed in the settings. We're going to change that by using Notification Center. And no, it's not the Notification Center that you might think of with the notification that pops up and that you can see here. No, it's something else, and it's best described when we are coding, so let's do it right away. Basically, you're using a global notification center called, and then you're accessing the singleton default to define a name that you want to shout, right? You can define a name and shout, for example, dark mode has changed, and you can use the same notification center to listen on that name to then do something. For example, we want in the settings, whenever we are toggling dark mode on, we want to shout dark mode has changed. And for example, in our view controller with the Digidestined, we want to also use the notification center to listen to exactly that name and say, whenever this name is shouted, dark mode has changed, we have defined with the notification center in the Digidestined view to then, when we hear that name, execute a certain function. For example, setting our whole view black. Let's do that. So, Notification Center default wants to shout, which is called post, a name, and we're going to use that one here. And the notification name itself is notification dot name, and we are defining the name actually, just a string, and it has to be character by character, upper and lowercase, exactly the same name as you are listening to in a second. So let's say dark mode has changed, just like that. We could even put the whole thing here into a variable right above and say we're assigning or passing on just the name, and this one is nil, like that. That's it. That's it for the toggle here right now. And now we are going to put into the Digidestined when the view load, actually when we're setting up the view with load view, let us add a observer that is basically listening on that name and then executing a function. So we are using again Notification Center dot add, well, default, right, the singleton, and then add observer, and we're going to use the one which has the selector as a parameter, and we're going to say, well, we are observing or actually listening to a specific name, and this one again, let's define it up here. Notification dot name has to be, again, character by character, the exact same. So dark mode has changed. I think I've written it like that. So it is very advisable to put that into a class or struct with a static variable to access it from there. So you don't have to type out the string yourself over and over again because it's very typo prone. Anyway, so we're using that name. This one is going to be nil again, and the selector is actually the function that we want to execute whenever we hear that name. What is it that we want to execute? Well, actually, we want to execute, right? We will have to say Objective-C because it's a selector, but we want to execute enable dark mode actually, right? So, and what does that mean? It means that we want to have our view background set to black. Oh, wait a second. We have actually the theme.dark static variable, right? Which defines for us the theme. So let's just assign that here and use theme.background color. And then also let's have a look at that. what else does it have? It has also the table view, the background color should be theme background color. It has the navigation controller, right? The navigation bar in it, and then the bar tint color has to be theme.background color, and we want the title of the navigation control to turn white. So navigation controller, navigation bar dot attribute, title text attributes is equal to a dictionary, just as we have learned in the last episode for the settings navigation controller title. We are going to use ns attributed string key access the foreground and want to say theme.text color is the one. So yeah, you can hopefully see that. Let's scroll over here. So right, foreground is the text color. So we are enabling dark mode by setting all the values to the theme's color. Let's just call that function whenever we are listening, whenever we are hearing the name. So enable dark mode, right? And that's basically already it. Let's just run the app and have a look. All right, so let's toggle it on, go over here, and we see, yes, indeed, everything is black, except this little part here. And this is because the table view itself is black, the background is black, but the table view cells aren't. So let's add the same thing to the custom cell as well, right? So we want to say when we are initiating the custom cell, which happens automatically whenever we are dequeuing a cell, right? We want to also add the notification observer to the custom cell, so the custom cell itself also hears or listens to the name, hey, dark mode has changed, and executes a function for itself too. So basically we can just copy this whole thing over, right, over to init, which basically says, okay, we're also listening to that name, and then we want to execute a Objective-C function called enable dark mode, and essentially just do the same. So theme is going to be theme.dark, and then it says background color is equal to theme.background color, and the text label, text color, is going to be theme.text color. Now when we are running this, we should already see that our whole app is turning black when we are toggling it on. There we go. This is already pretty neat, but here's the trick. When we're toggling it off, the app doesn't notice, well, it was toggled off. Yes, it will fire this dark mode has changed, and we will execute all these functions, but all these functions are actually setting it dark always, right? Whenever this name is shouted. And we're shouting this name on every toggle, toggling it on and off. We're shouting dark mode has changed. And all we do is whenever we are hearing that name, we're setting everything dark. So let's change that by very easily. For example, before we are shouting the name right here, why don't we just store the true or false value of the toggle to the user defaults? And let's do it right now. And then on the other side, wherever we are listening to it, we are retrieving the true or false value, and based on that, we are then assigning black or light mode, dark or light mode. So let's just access the standard of user defaults and set a Boolean value, right? The toggle is on value for the key is dark mode, for example, right? So we are storing at user defaults the toggle true or false and at that key, and then we are shouting dark mode has changed right here. So that means whenever we are shouting that, we have already in the user defaults the value of the toggle stored. That means whenever we are listening to the name and hear the name, we can execute enable dark mode. We can actually say, well, is dark mode, let's access the user default standard and get the Boolean for key is dark mode. I also advise to have that one in a static key somewhere in, for example, a static struct or something, so you don't have the typo potential, but basically you're assigning the value that is stored, and then you can here also again say is dark mode. If it's true, yes, use that one. If it's not true, well, let's use a light, right? Let's copy this whole thing as well into the custom cell over here, and theme is already used down here. So basically we're using the light or dark color based on whatever this one resolves into. So let's run that and see whether or not our whole app actually works out. Settings, toggling dark mode on, everything is dark. Toggling dark mode off, everything is light. That's pretty awesome. So you can already, with that knowledge, implement your whole app based on the single setting toggle dark mode on and off. However, there are two catches, I would say. So the one catch is when we are toggling it on and then we are dismissing our app, right? We are closing our app and we're opening it. We have stored the value in the user defaults, but we haven't used that value on the initial launch to reapply whatever is stored. That and also the way you have already experienced that we are copying and pasting these all these kind of things like observer, the same function, only the function body changes for this one and for this one, right? But all the rest is basically the same. That we are copying this code is already an indicator to abstract it away to a cleaner architecture. These both catches are going to be addressed in the next episode of this iOS series. So if you don't want to miss out on that, make sure to subscribe. And if that episode, if you learned anything from it, make sure to hit like to help me out. Also let me know in the comment section whether or not everything was kind of clear or needs more explanation, or whether you have a topic suggestion for the future. Don't forget to check out the description box, because I have Patreon and you can support me with Patreon and also get access to all the code that I write in every video, as well as to the Discord community that I just launched. So you can come on over and write and text me directly, as well as early access to all my games and apps that I do alongside the YouTube videos, right? Because I also do my own projects. Other than that, I hope I see you in the next one. Bye.